Welcome to an episode of Good Sugar, a little bit shorter episode. Marcus, in the interest of full disclosure, I think right now his wife is squirting out a kid. I think that's what's happening, Brian. That's pretty wild.
Don't ladies poop babies out?
That's how it works. That's why you put your tampons in the butt so that you prevent the babies from falling out.
That's science.
That's hardcore science. So let me I like to update everybody on me personally. Hey, look at me in the nice button-down shirt. I am like almost 50 pounds off now, which is crazy, Brian.
From when we started the show.
Yeah, from when we started the show to now, I've lost almost 50 pounds.
You're running like 10 miles a day.
Yeah, I run 19 miles a week, and it's 3, 6, sometimes 10. So 3, 6, 10 is 19. Doing the Peloton, really trying to stay active. I've been meditating every day, only for 3 minutes, but it's something, right? And trying, my biggest, I would say, hurdle has been my love of food. I am having a hard time saying goodbye to the things I love so much because it's a true, pure enjoyment thing. And to just walk away from it, it's hard to do. I can't, I'm doing so much on the other side of, like, instead of watching SNL reruns or whatever, I'm going to go do a 9-mile run for 2 hours. It's let me have my one pleasure. My argument, and Marcus can't answer this, and I don't know if you could answer this. I mean, it's hard to for yourself. I don't think he gets the reaction to food that I get. I just think if he did, it would be hard just to walk away from that.
I have a big problem with eating trash food, especially since because as you know, I recently got umbilical hernia surgery. So it's not like my nuts are falling out. My guts were opened up essentially. So I haven't been able to do anything for months, right? Like, just my body, like, I'm just not structurally sound until recently. But I fucking order the worst food all the time. Last night, I ordered chicken wings and French fries and onion rings for no reason.
Well, it hits a part of your brain. It's like it is like a drug, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, even, let's say, forget about junk food for a second, even really relatively clean, let's say like a really good steak that's grass-fed and just filet mignon with very little fat on it, if it's cooked and prepared right, and there's no really hard facts that it's definitely bad for you, your food, at least well, that's bad for you. You're not going to deny that's bad for you.
Literally everything I eat is deep fried these days. It's a big problem.
Awful. But I'm saying, for me, a really well-prepared steak, a really good lean sashimi, which is just fish. Although if you watch what is that new movie all about not having fish anymore? Sea something. I forget what it's called, but it makes you not want to have fish anymore because of the corrupt fishing industry. But whatever.
It's not the parasites and the bottom feeding.
No, it's something else. But anyway, so it's just hard to walk away from it. And there's no way to quantify it. There's no way to show, unless we go to get our brain scans and see what my brain looks like when I eat meat and when his looks like when he has a kale salad, if there's any sort of
connection between
metric. Yeah, I just don't do it until then. Anyway, so what's happening now, obviously, I am 51. I used to hide my age. I don't hide my age anymore. I talk very openly about it. And we found this woman who wrote a book on what's called radical longevity. The idea is not just to live longer, but as you get older, to still live a relatively active life. And I always bring up my parents as an example. My father got more sedentary. My mother got more sedentary. My grandfather, everybody does. But then there's always those people you hear about that are 80 years old that are still fucking running marathons. What's the secret?
Fred Bishi.
Yeah, Fred Bishi is still super active.
Like 91, 92?
Yeah, exactly. So the question is there a way to unlock that? I don't know for sure. When we bring on these people, we're not saying by any means that everybody, what they're saying is 100% rote scientific fact. We're just trying to get the best of these different viewpoints to try and distill what does work and try things. Like, I've tried a lot of these things. We're having a colonic woman coming on soon because I went and got a colonic just to see how I felt.
Feeling lighter? Is that where the 51 pounds went?
That's where the 50 pounds came from. No, I did the stretching thing. I will try these things to be the human guinea pig to see if anything actually makes a difference. We'll bring on this woman. She has some theories to me that sound a little more radical, especially with certain drugs and stuff, but maybe it's right. Who the fuck knows? There's no way to know.
I mean, that's fair. Although I'm all about just trying drugs if they're going to help me or not help me.
You're
Either
the
way.
pinnacle of health, Brian. The pinnacle of health. All right, we've talked about it enough. Let's bring her on right now. She has a master's in nutritional education from Columbia, certified nutritional specialist as well, and a PhD in holistic nutrition. It is Louise Gittleman. How are you? Thank you so much for coming on the show.
It's my pleasure, Ralph. And how are you today? Hopefully practicing radical longevity.
Trying my best. I also listened to a little bit of your First Lady of Nutrition podcast. We'll get into all of it. Let me ask you a quick question first. Like, in researching you, I never heard of a PhD in holistic nutrition before. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes, I received it in 2003. And I've always been involved with holistic nutrition, even when I was a clinical nutritionist at Bellevue Hospital. So I've always looked at the alternative side of life. I studied with the Grand Dame of Nutrition in 1974, so I've always brought that into play. I have one foot in clinical, one foot in the alternative, and I think it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting because a lot of the people we've had on the show, they've talked about how traditional medicine is very slow to embrace change and very slow to embrace things that may not fit within the norm of what's perceived as traditional medicine, but
True.
There is a lot to be found out there. It's hard to, as a layman, sift through so much of the noise to find out the things that actually do work.
I couldn't agree with you more, but I was very blessed early in my career. In 1974, at the age of 25, I studied with a woman who was exceedingly alternative. So I learned to look at underlying causes rather than just symptoms. And I've been looking at the underlying causes since then. I feel if we can get rid of the underlying causes, you can really get rid of some of the diseases in today's day and age, and also avert autoimmune conditions, which are so prevalent. So it's really looking beneath the surface, Ralph. That's what the clue is. That's what the key is.
Right. It's funny that I've used this analogy so often in my life. It's that very often we look at just fixing the immediate, like the obvious thing. Like, for instance, if you're overweight, maybe you work out more and you start getting into better shape. But the question is, what was the root cause to make you get that way? And if you don't address that, most likely it's going to happen again. When you do these radical diets or anything to change your life immediately, the analogy I've always given is it's like buying a new car because you got a flat tire. Yes, it would fix the problem, but that's not a long-term solution.
No, and what we want is long-term solutions, because people may be living longer, but they're not living better. They're not living stronger. They're not living into the age of what I call radical longevity, into vitality and resilience and repair and rejuvenation. We don't want to extend the period of dying. We want to extend the period of living. And that's where you have to look at underlying causes and correct them as they come up, because as you get older, nothing goes away.
Right. Well, let's talk about that. So you're author of 35 books. The newest book is Radical Longevity. I have, this past year, I'm 51 now. So
Bless your heart.
It's becoming obvious to me that there are just certain things I can't do that I could do when I was 30 or that I could do when I was 20. In the grand scheme of things, people might look at me as on the younger side, but depends how old you are. If you're 25, I'm an old man. If you're 80, they would kill to be my age. So it's all about perception. Right.
Yes.
But I can tell you that for sure, like Alzheimer's and cancer and a lot of other negative shit runs in my family, right? My father died of cancer. He had Alzheimer's towards the end. So I start freaking out because he started to lose it a little bit in his 70s, and I'm already 51. That doesn't seem that far away to me. So I start freaking out. So
yes.
The steps that you recommend, like you said, that there's a mineral that actually could help reverse Alzheimer's.
Yes, and I hate to talk about magic bullets, but this is a magic bullet. And the mineral that we talk about here is what I call the Cinderella mineral, and it's none other than lithium at micro doses. We know about lithium being used in medicinal facilities and so forth, but this is lithium. And what we find is not only can it prevent, but it can also reverse those neurofibrillary tangles in some of the beta amyloid plaques. So if you're going to do one thing and not change your diet and not change your lifestyle, get some lithium. You need at least 5 to 80 milligrams per day. And the literature is out there. It started being looked at in the 1970s. We saw a lot of advances in the 1990s. Mineral, of all the minerals known to man, it's lithium that can help to reverse Alzheimer's. So remember that if you remember nothing else from this interview.
Is lithium something that can be obtained like through normal channels? Is it easy, or has it got to be doctor prescribed? To me, lithium has somewhat of a negative connotation, but it could just be my archaic way of thinking. Is it something that can be easily obtained?
It is online. We're talking about the nutritional microdoses of lithium. We're not talking about the elevated 500, 2,500 milligrams. We're talking about microdoses. So you can look for it online. It's lithium orotate. But the most important news that I can bring to you about Alzheimer's is it can help to repair the neurofibrillary tangles. It can help to revitalize the brain.
Oh, shit. We lost her.
It's better than anything else out there. It is the magic bullet.
We lost you for a second. Your whole feed stopped for a second. So can you repeat that last sentence, please?
Of all the minerals out there, it is the magic mineral to help reverse and prevent Alzheimer's.
And is there a lot of like peer-reviewed papers on that? Because I would love to read. That's fascinating to me, just because I saw it happen with my uncle, with my father, and other people. I know it runs in my family. So anything I could do to prevent that would be something. Is there places where I could read up on this?
Yes, just take a look online. There's a lot of literature that came out in the 1970s to the 1990s. There was an article that came out, I think it was 2014 in the New York Times, which talked about lithium. So it's even been given the kind of the red light, the green light, I should say, in traditional conventional settings. So yes, there's a ton of stuff online. I did a podcast with a gentleman who's a psychiatrist, an integrative psychiatrist, that uses it primarily in his practice to kind of reverse and to stop Alzheimer's from progressing. So it is a magic mineral. It used to be found in a lot of waters. We don't see it naturally in water anymore. So you do have to take it as a supplement. And it's easily found, Ralph, and it's cheap. You can find it easily online. That's what I would prescribe for you right now, even at the age of 50.
All right, well, that's good to know. I'm going to look into that for sure. Then also I read online that you got COVID, and how are you feeing?
I never had COVID.
Oh, you never had? Some reason I saw that somewhere that you got COVID. I apologize. I must have read it wrong. Let's move on. I also read that you talk extensively about manipulating your metabolism, right? So
yes.
I personally, again, it's this show in general is about trying to improve me as a person. So we very often look at how these doctors coming in can talk about how they can help me, right? So I know for sure when I was a kid, 20s, up until about 35, I could not gain weight. No matter what I did, my metabolism was so fast, I would wake up in the middle of the night and force feed myself food because I was wasting away. I was weighed over 100 pounds lighter than I do now. Like I was ridiculously thin. But as I got older, that changed and my metabolism 100% slowed down dramatically. Are there steps that you recommend people to do to start speeding up or making their metabolism more effective?
Yes, and the first macronutrient is protein. I'm a big believer, Ralph, in protein, at least 100 grams of protein a day, especially because it enhances metabolism by 25%. So that may mean a smoothie in the morning, some sort of salad with salmon in the afternoon, maybe a stir fry with beef in the evening. I'm a big believer in adequate protein, at least 100 grams a day. I also like a little bit of carbohydrate and a little bit of fat, and the kinds of fats that I like are something like hemp seed oil, olive oil, and coconut oil. I like the healthy fats. I think that's very important to kind of act as a blood sugar stabilizer. So protein, fat, and carbohydrates is the way to go. You don't have to be extreme, but you do have to have each of those macronutrients at each meal and every snack, I would say.
My co-host, who is not here today due to his wife's about to give birth, so he's in the hospital right now. He's vegan. Do you shit on vegan? Do you think that they can still be healthy while being vegan? Or do you think as omnivores, it's too hard to work around?
I think it's more challenging, but it definitely can be done. And I respect that. There are people that have spiritual and ethical beliefs about being vegan. But they still have to have adequate protein, adequate B12, and more amino acids. I'm a big believer in just the basic amino acids for every vegan in the world.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. So, on your right now, your current book is Radical Longevity. Your previous book, Radical Metabolism, or one of the previous books, you focused a lot on which one of my friends who has a severe celiac disease talks a lot about bile and the digestive system and things that you can do to bring that into a better state. Is there things that you would recommend the average person to introduce into their diet to improve their digestive system?
Yes, bitters. Bitters are better, Ralph. And if you think of bitters, what do you think of? You think of bitter fruits like grapefruit, you think of arugula, you think of watercress, you think of lemons and limes. Bitters are very important
I think of
too.
drink mixers. Aren't drink mixers bitters? Isn't that a thing also?
Angostura bitters, if
Yeah.
you like Manhattans, yes.
Yeah.
So I'll drink to that. Yeah, that's very, very good. And you also need to increase your choline, which is important for people that don't have a gallbladder. Choline is a major fat metabolizer, and I think it's very deficient in the diet. So having added choline, which you can get in eggs, adding more bitters in the fruits, the vegetables, some of the bitter herbs that are out there, including ginger and oregano, I think are exceedingly important. People don't get enough bitters. They get sugar, they get sour, but they don't get enough bitter. So that's where bitters come into play. And in the book, I talk about the bitters as part of your radical longevity healing plan for people to live till 120.
120. Well, they do say that the person that's going to live to 150 is alive today. They may be 6, but that first person to make the 150 is alive today. So the book, again, Radical Longevity, what was the catalyst for this book? Like, what was the aha moment where you said you understood that this was an area that you needed to flesh out to be a book?
Turning 70, Ralph.
Well, that'll do it.
Turning 70, it's like self-enlightenment. It's enlightened self-interest is really the phrase that I'm looking for. So when you're 50 and when you're 60, it's one thing. When you're turning 70, you're looking at your mortality. You're looking at what you need to do to extend and preserve your youth span. So I truly believe, because my teacher was 106 when she died, that there's a lot that we can do to extend and preserve our youth span. So you don't have to go into old age with debility and independence and loss of independence. I think it's important that you just approach it with a lot of love, passion, pride, and guts and preservation. So I think it's like guts and grace that we all need as we approach the age of 70 and beyond.
So now a lot of it, of your book and of what we're talking about, it seems to revolve around the nutritional aspect of how to get yourself into a gooder place, not just nutrition, but supplements and, like you said, lithium, etc. Are there things you do for your mental state, be it meditation, be it any sort of mental exercises to get your brain to still be functioning at the level you want it to as you get older?
I read on a daily basis. I do a lot of reading on the internet on a daily basis. I do affirmations on a daily basis, and I walk and I dance because I find that dancing is very good for the brain. So anything that I can do to get my body, mind, and spirit in alignment is what's very good for longevity and the preservation of your health span.
Fair enough. Now, let me ask you, my mother is 74. She's going to be 74 as we're taping this in about 10 days. I'm flying out to Miami for her birthday. I've been having a very difficult time getting her to start moving forward, to start moving, being more active, to start eating better. She just wants to eat what she loves. She just wants, she's a little too sedentary. For someone that is a little older than you, because you said you just turned 70, what do you suggest for someone who's kind of like in a, I don't want to say a rut, because that seems mean, but I mean, at this point, she's too sedentary. What would you suggest to someone to try and snap them out of it, to get them to start doing what you're saying, like dance? I used to call her every morning to just get up, and I said, just jump up and down for 30 seconds.
Seriously?
And then at least you did something. But she, even though I did that every day, if there was a day that went by that I didn't do it, she wouldn't do it.
So maybe she can join a club if she's in Miami. There are a lot of seniors in Miami. It's a wonderful place to retire and to live. Maybe she can go out and take a walk for at least 20 minutes. Taking a walk 20 minutes 3 times a week is very important. Or if she's in an apartment or a condo, to go up and down the stairs. That is also relegated as good exercise. And she needs to be in a group where she's got a lot of social action. We find that social connection is very important, and doing something meaningful, whether it's still working or doing some sort of volunteerism. So all those things are the kind of the traits that really can preserve radical longevity.
And it's funny is that not to compare my mother and my father, they were been divorced since I was 5, but my mom's always been a more social creature, and my dad was a little more, him and his wife, they were madly in love, and they would kind of just stay together for the most time. And I think because my mom has always been more of a social butterfly, maybe that helps her brain. I don't know. I can't say.
Oh, no, it does. There have been recent studies of what they call the super agers. The more social somebody is, the more it extends your lifespan. So that's a very, very good, that's a good perk. That's a good aspect in and of itself. You should be very proud of your mother.
I am. I was proud of both of my parents, but yeah, she's definitely the social butterfly that it's hilarious how everybody knows. Like I walk down the street with my mom in Miami, and it's like being with the mayor. Like everybody knows my mom. It's hilarious.
Lovely.
Okay, so the website is AnneLouise.com. Your Instagram is at AnneLouise Gittleman, and the book is Radical Longevity, which is out now. I'm sure you can get it at the website. Everything else. Did I forget anything to plug while we have you on?
RadicalLongevityBook.com for 3 free downloads.
3 free downloads at RadicalLongevityBook.com. And
Yes.
Louise Gittleman, thank you so much for taking time out on the Good Sugar podcast.
May you live till 120, and may your mother and father as well, Ralph.
Thank you so much. All right, Brian. So that was Anne Louise Gittleman. The lithium thing freaks me out a little bit. I mean, I don't know how to try that in small doses without it leading to trying that in large doses, but
you know
we'll
what?
see.
I will be the guinea pig for the show.
Did you ever try lithium?
I have not.
Okay. It says, Nirvana had a song called Lithium.
Yeah. The thing is I don't do like big boy drugs. Like I'm scared of big boy drugs. I just stick with the street stuff. I'll smoke some weed more than occasionally.
I'm a puss, but I'll tell you what I'm doing right now. As soon as we end the show, I am going to look up lithium and see what's out there. Like, we've had different guests on, like with the cholesterol from the guest from 2 weeks ago, where there's like 12, 13 different strands of cholesterol. I looked that up. That's all true. It's as much as I could find. There's no way to know for sure, but it looks like that is understood science right now. But it's just that the mainstream scientific community is slow to make that change.
The mainstream scientific community is always slow to make any change.
Yeah, just like in general, which I always say, technology is about 10 years ahead of law. If you remember when MP3s first came out, they were completely legal for like 3-4 years because nobody knew what to do about it. And the national legal system is a big giant thing moving slowly to finally get those changes done. So always law is way behind what becomes mainstream. Look, weed just became legal in New York City. So
that's because somebody's trying to get out of some hot water though.
Oh, for sure. There's no
it's so funny.
But anyway, it is a shorter episode this week. Marcus will be back next week. We'll do another dive into somebody else, but I appreciate you listening to Good Sugar. I saw that we broke the top 200 in the alternative wellness somewhere. I forgot where it was.
Last month was our best month ever.
And last month was the best month ever. So thank you all. Please share the show. And, as it does better, it motivates me to lose more weight. So you don't want me to be fat again, people. It's ugly. All right, we'll see you next week on Good Sugar.